Saving Calabasas, Part 1 of 2. Story written and created by Matthew McNabb. Illustrations imagined by Matthew McNabb, generated by AI. Narrated by Matthew McNabb. Disclaimer. The characters portrayed in this short story are neither meant to parody anyone's character, likeness, or behavior, nor portray any opinion I have of anyone. Any perceived similarity to any character or behavior is mere coincidence and not intentional. The character's appearance was attempted via AI-generated imagery using sophisticated prompting. However, it is still very difficult to precisely and accurately portray any person with consistency in multiple panels or images. You will find that some characters may look more or less like their real counterparts. In the wise words of Shakespeare's Puck, if we shadows have offended, think but this, and all is mended, that you have but slumbered here, while these visions did appear. Chapter 1. A Man in His Tree. A man sits beneath the oak whose age is lost to history. He feels the life of the tree in his hands as he brushes his fingers along the dry bark of its sturdy trunk. In some way, he feels connected to it. He muses to himself, "A tree is a good place for a story and a nap. I will do both, but first, a story." Being one not weary of his own tales, he proceeds to recount it all to himself. "This legend I tell the wind, hoping on her wings she will bring it to some worthy soul's ears." Eyes closed from weariness, he rests his smoking hand atop his staff, pointing with his unlit pipe to some imaginary listener. This is a story of hope, love, loss, faith, curses, courage, and friendship. But before I get into all that, some insightful and convenient background to the story. The old man's eyes open. The Tercer Ojo, the gift of our hero child, the Neo-Kenchi, allows the babe to impart wisdom, insight, and intuition to those attuned to his inklings. Only practitioners of the ancient ascetic tradition of Montequilla can even wish to perceive such intuitions. The slight breeze turns its course and a harsher breeze picks up. Our sage blows warm air into his labor-worn hands and continues. This story begins with tragedy in the heart of Pop, the good-turned-evil genius who lusts after the power of that divine ornament, the Goro Santerix. Such a relic would grant him powers over animals, even to speak with them, powers to live in the harshest conditions imaginable, powers over space and time, bending them to his will, and ultimately the power of immortality. His passion leads him to devise a plan to defeat the mythical guardian of that crown, the Godzilla beast, with the help of his two hopelessly faithful henchmen, Mikel and Mateo. The old man takes a deep puff of his pipe for dramatic pause. But his plans were intercepted by the meditations of the Neo-Kenchi, just as he foresaw. Here's where we begin, in the palace of Calabasas. Chapter 2. A Prophecy and the Three. Like any good story, this one begins with a prophecy. And like any good prophecy, this one is spoken in verse. In the land of Calabasas, just north of the Queen's town of the Angels, a warrior queen takes her place on her throne, for three visitors come from afar to present her with a message. The Queen of Calabasas, in deep and troubled thought, tries to anticipate the nature of the message. But no thought would prepare her heart for the weighty words of our visitors. "The three," she whispers to herself. And her very thought was interrupted by the opening of the royal hall's wooden doors by no means visible to her. And there, behind the door, were they, the three. The three, Meat-chan, Mad Wood, and the mystical babe, the Neo-Kenchi, have a connection no one on earth can comprehend. They talk in riddles, rhymes, thoughts, and mostly they speak as one, finishing the words of the other until complete thought has taken its course. Indeed, it takes perception and attention to merely speak to them. They approach the throne with uncanny unity and grace. The Queen of Calabasas opens her mouth, but she couldn't recall if words were even spoken. And now, without hesitation, the two tall, hooded figures in symmetrical fashion speak. Meat-chan, handling the babe as though it were a feather, begins, but is finished by Mad Wood. "Visitors from afar are we, come to offer unto thee, our great Queen and Majesty, tidings of great sorrow." "I know who you are," exclaimed the Queen, "the prophet and prophetess from beyond the wood of the 100 acres outside the realm of Calabasas. I trust you. But the mysterious child with you, it cannot be. Is this the babe through which our fates will be revealed?" Meat-chan begins again. "You judge, your highness, so truly. Neo-Kenchi we found newly. To hear his words we pay duly. Of the foul beast, most unruly." The Queen stands from her throne. "Tell me the prophecy he spake with neither tongue nor gesture, for I know he speaketh only with words unheard and gestures unseen." In unison the two visitors recite the prophecy. A vision of light and shadow, revealed by sight of Oho, awakened at night by the foe, Godzilla through fight be brought low. By hatred and guile the plot won, the giant defiled and undone, the powerful style the crown stun, to defeat the child withstood none. If one in the three mend the rift, betwixt 17 less a fifth, a chorus from Queen chooses to lift, can meet victory, fellow skiff. What does this mean? The Queen went to say something more, but she could not piece together the thought. This time Mad Wood begins, and the three come closer than they were. The fellow skiff must reunite, or all will be black as the night. From now until the end of time, this child is the final sign. The foe, that Pop less for power, the bells toll this very hour. Now is not the time to cower. 12 to defeat this bold tower. The Queen sat down in her chair, not by choice, but by the shiver that overcame her. A long while passed in silence, at least, that is how the Queen felt. Remembering her role, she straightened up, and with the force of a queen in her voice, she commanded, "We must fight, but I cannot do this alone. Will you accompany me?" Chapter 3. Enter Pop. Now, there is a fortification south of Calabasas, but outside its outer boundaries, where the genius, yet devious, alchemist named Pop practices his ancient art. His henchmen, bound to him by life debt, serve him tirelessly. Mikel and Madio, prepare yourselves. A voice sounds through the halls of the dark house like thunder would sound in a cave, and quickly the pattering footsteps of the imprisoned henchmen joins the chorus of thunder like rain. The hour has arrived for our departure. If all has fallen into place, then the Neo-Kenshi child will soon be led to the dark lair of Godzilla at the Valley of the Dead, and then our opportunity to seize the Gorson Teryx will manifest. As Mikel and Madio enter the room, the familiar sight meets their eyes, that of the master sitting as prettily as his animal companion, Mildog. He sits there, so the henchmen think together, only when he's been thinking or wants to smoke. As it turns out, he's up to both. Mikel of the Frost, bring me my pipe. Do not delay. Then Pop shoos him away. Whence is your pipe, Master Pop? Mikel counters. And with a raised eyebrow, Master Pop re-counters. Whence it was laid last, Mikel. Do not try me presently. I need not your games today. And a compliant Mikel concedes. Yes, master. I shall find the wretched thing. Do not despise your role, young Mikel. Your gifts are unorthodox, but do not think them ignoble in any way. Pop encourages, whether genuine or not is anybody's guess. I throw poop, Master Pop, Mikel screams in clear disgust. Yes, a humble gift it is, Pop answers, but it will, along with my favorite friend Mildog, be most useful. And you can still breathe frost and ice as chilling and as cutting as a blizzard, so that must count for something. Matteo, hoping his presence would go somehow unnoticed, finally catches the eye of the master. Quickly he looks away and realizes his mistake, pretends to see some curious thing on the floor. Matteo, I know your tricks. Do not pretend. You are ashamed of me, though I saved your soul. Ah, well, I suppose being a gaggle of antagonist, I cannot expect much of virtue from you or your brother. Very well, despise the master. But before you do, first, light my pipe. Then despise me while you prepare the supplies. And take the dog with you. Its breath does wear on me so. Knowing he cannot beat the master at a game of manipulation, he turns toward Pop and expels a flame from his mouth, igniting Pop's pipe. Just then, Pop opens his mouth. Do not oversee your value as well, young Matteo. Your breath of flame may tempt you towards vanity, but your ice skating prowess will always bring joy to my heart. And who knows, it may serve some greater purpose some day. Yes, Master Pop. Off you go, Matteo, no time to waste. I have a Goros Teryx to claim. Chapter 4. The Swashbuckler. Fellow skiff, fellow skiff, fellow skiff. The Queen of Calabasas thought as she walked ahead of the three. What can this mean? I've never heard of such a word. Troubled by this thought and the compelling importance of it, she suffered in heart and mind. And then, like a rock struck her in the head, the thought came to her. It is a union of warriors. Yes, a fellow skiff of heroes in one accord, she thought. Where did such an idea come from? She turned around and the babe, the Neo-Kenshi, smiled at her. She recalled that the Neo-Kenshi can speak without uttering a word to whom he pleases, but his guardians, Michan and Manwood, have spent their lives so that they may interpret his inklings. Just then, they came upon the saloon named the Swashbuckler, a lodge and bar for travelers of strange talents. She knew she would find some here who would join her cause. As the queen reached the door, she could hear the chatter of ruffians and travelers inside, then the curious sound of spitting and ricochets. Spit, ricochet, ricochet, ricochet. Spit, ricochet, ricochet, ricochet. The queen waits for the three to step up to the double doors. She pushes the doors open, and, as if crickets heard a child's footsteps, silence overcomes the place. But still, that continuing sound. Spit, ricochet, ricochet, ricochet. A woman, seated with back against the counter and with a handful of bullet shells, sticks one in her mouth and turns towards the pail next to her. Spit, ricochet, ricochet, ricochet. The Queen of Calabasas, a bit timid by the display of sheer indifference and irreverence, approaches the man beside her instead. Pardon me, but he doesn't speak anymore. In fact, he doesn't open his mouth except to eat small green peas, one by one. Spit, ricochet, ricochet, ricochet. If you're going to talk to someone, it ought to be me. And with that, the bullet-spitting femme gestures towards herself. It reached my ears that Garganmuth has the largest and hardest bite with in all of the wood of the Cian Acres, and yet he doesn't speak, the queen said. Yeah, that about sums it up. I'm Lexpit, and judging by your get-up, I reckon you're the queen. Quite a far fall from your castle on the hill, eh? What do you want? Indeed, the queen thought to herself that this quick-talker is going to push her, so she better choose her words wisely. But just as she was about to open her mouth, a voice from another counter fills the room. The Queen of Calabasas herself walks into my saloon. Looks like I'll be closing early today. This voice seems to be coming from the dog in the chair. The queen became more and more intrigued by these characters. The fellow skiff, a union of warriors against the evil forces that will doom us, according to prophecy, must galvanize. I require all willing hands, familiar or not. The fate of all Calabasas, the wood of the Cian Acres, and beyond depends on it. The dog said, The name's Bo. This is Lexbit, as you already know, and Garganmuth. All of us are legendary in our own right. We all have debts to pay to the crown. That's the reason for the attitude. Consider them paid, friends, the queen said. You are no longer debtors to the crown, but friends of the queen. And as she finished saying this, the doors of the swashbuckler swing open, and a couple of dandies walk in with mouths gaping open. Speaking of debts, screamed Lexbit, grab those thieves. Megan and Adiah. They keep stealing my furniture. Last week they stole my music box. Lexbit, followed by Gargamuth and Bo, and then the Queen and the three, pursued after Megan and Adiah bolted away. What makes them such good thieves? Asked the Queen, panting as she did. They run with wings on their heels. No one can catch them, Lexbit explained. Our newly developed fellow skiff followed the two burglars into the banana tree forest. The banana tree forest? What madness drove them in there? Bo stupidly asked. The Queen of Calabasas looks at Bo questioningly. We must find them. They too can be assets to our team. Follow me, all who are sturdy of heart. At that, they follow Megan and Adiah into the banana tree forest. The Queen again says to her team, Look, cast your eyes above. They float on the leaves of the banana trees, jumping from one to another. They're getting away, Lexbit screams. And suddenly, everyone felt in their chest a pressure wave pulsing through the air. It was coming from behind. The Queen looks at the Neo-Kenchi on top of Mad Wood's shoulders, with eyes shut and mouth gaping open. Everyone, find cover, the Queen exclaims. And just as everyone fell on their faces, a cry emanated from that small mouth, and all the trees bowed down away from the three in concentric fashion. Megan and Adiah lose their footing and come crashing down. After a moment, everyone slowly gets up. To everyone's amazement, Megan and Adiah walk steadily towards the group atop newly felled banana trees. Megan began. Sincerest apologies. We knew not that Neo-Kenchi led this party. Indeed, we know the oracle. We've heard of the power of the Neo-Kenchi, Adiah added. Where's my music box? Lexbit yells to Megan. I sold it on the Eagle Market. Adiah tries to console the team. But we give you what our hands and feet may do to join the cause of the Neo-Kenchi. The team quickly finds their way through the banana tree forest, having flattened the greater part of the jungle. They come to a wasted seashore, strewn with beached and shipwrecked boats and sea vessels. Michan and Mad Wood again speak in turn. Our journey through the cursed forest, in time less fulfilled our purpose, but now has begun our true test, of mind and heart through one wise guess. This concludes Part 1 of Saving Calabasas. Part 2, to be continued, Chapter 5, The Nitty Gritty.